Welcome to the pole position channel, guys. Miami GP race predictions. Here we go, sprint weekend. It's the first race weekend for 5 weeks, so I feel like we've become disconnect from the Formula One world, but we're finally back. And what a weekend we have in store. Obviously, sprint weekend. Can we see McLaren close the gap? How did Ferrari respond as well? Do we get the same sort of midfield battle with Red Bull amongst the midfield cars? I have to wait and see, but we had a lot of time away. A few regulation adjustments mid-season, so hopefully we get for some good racing, less of the super clipping, less of that lifting off and all the rubbish that we saw the first sort of 3 races, and we get a really, really good race here around Miami that normally delivers some chaos, some ups and downs, so I think we're in for a very, very interesting weekend. Let's start first, sprint pole. I think this will be owned by the Mercedes for most of the season. I'm going to go in the end for George Russell here. A man that has to respond after what Kimi Antonelli has done the last few races, in particular his consistency. George Russell, look, is always going to be up there. I think on a sprint qualifying with less practice, his more, I guess you can say, veteran experience or more experience over his teammate will come to the forefront. He's going to be really, really good around this track as well. And I just think he responds well here. I can't see George Russell going 4 to 5 races without being able to respond to Kimi Antonelli. I think this weekend is going to be a weekend where he can show that he can respond. He can get back on the front foot, that he has that raw race pace there. Look, things haven't gone his way the last few weeks as well. Has become quite unlucky with, obviously, the safety car around Japan and timing of pit stops. But I think he shows he has the raw one-lap pace in this one here and puts it on pole position. Now, I've gone bold with the sprint win. I've gone totally left of field. I've gone Lando Norris for the sprint win. I think, we'll get onto it later on, I think the McLarens have the pace. I don't think Japan was a fluke. I think that's really where they can be. I think Lando Norris qualifies in the top 4, gets a really good start and can hold position. And that's the important thing. I think the McLarens can hold position in the race. Over one lap, I don't think they've got it to match the Mercedes, but in terms of going side by side, wheel-to-wheel racing, staying at the front of the grid, I think they've got that. I think Lando Norris will qualify on the second row in P3. I think he'll jump up into P1 as the Mercedes battle each other, and then he'll go up and control the rest of the sprint race. The McLarens, obviously, last year were fantastic around this place. I thought they were really, really quick. Normally isn't to be for the second row in terms of winning races, but sprints are just different. They're just so hard to predict, and I think Lando Norris then can steam through and can win the sprint race. It's going to be bold, but I think what I saw from Japan, and hopefully they continue to build on that in the mini break we had, I think they've got the pace, and they've got the quality. They've obviously got enough in that car to get it up the grid like we saw with Oscar Piastri around Japan. I think Lando around Miami will do very, very well. I think they're finally working out how to maximise that engine over the race distances as well. So I've gone with a Lando Norris sprint win, which sounds ridiculous saying that. Into pole position, I've gone with Kimi Antonelli. I think George Russell and Kimi will be literally half a tenth separate the two of them, but I think Kimi gets the job done. I think right now he's just flying a momentum. I think that momentum will continue to carry him forward. I don't think it's going to be a great sprint race for him. I think he'll chuck it aside, he'll get into qualifying and put it together well. And I think the Mercedes will flex their muscles. We'll see, obviously, I think McLaren do very, very well in the sprint race, but I think Mercedes respond in qualifying, put a massive gap between them and the rest of the field. And I just don't see Ferrari being much of a hindrance or much of an obstacle for this Mercedes side this weekend. I just have a weird feeling that Mercedes will just run clear and they'll just dominate throughout. And I just think that's the way this weekend goes. So Kimi goes on to pole for me. Then we come to the podium finishes. In third place, I've gone Lando Norris again. I'm backing McLaren in. I think it'll be out of him or Oscar Piastri. I think it's going to be Mercedes and McLaren up the top. Once again, I think Lando just pips ahead of Oscar Piastri. Obviously, disappointment last year around this circuit, but he showed a lot of quality over race distances throughout this season. He's had a lot of misfortune, but when he's actually been out there racing and on the track, he's often been just a little bit quicker at times than than Oscar Piastri. So I think Lando Norris responds this weekend. It's been a tough year for him in terms of reliability, car problems, things not going his way, the team not being in the best position to give him a quality race car. But I think McLaren have turned a corner. I think Lando Norris will turn a corner as well, and he'll pick up P3. I've got George Russell in P2. I think it's going to be another great weekend for him, but I just think Kimi Antonelli, I've got P1. I just think he will hold on from the front of the grid. And it's so important this season with this Mercedes side. You want to be leading into the pit stops. And I think Kimi Antonelli will lead into the pit stops. He'll get his preference of when he wants to pit and where. And it was work for him. He'll keep enough of a buffer to George Russell. I expect them to go racing at some point in time. I expect the front three or so to be within overtaking distance at some point in the race. But I think when it comes to wheel-to-wheel racing and it comes to obviously holding position, I just think Kimi has the betterment of George Russell right now because of the confidence, because of the momentum that's in his camp right now, and the belief he's currently driving with. We're looking at a driver now that's looking to string together back-to-back races of just winning and being clear and controlling. And I just think the impact that China had is massive for him. To have that win so early in the season was massive. And then to back it up, obviously luck goes his way, but in Japan, he comes this weekend with all the belief in the world. And George Russell just comes with that little monkey on his shoulder that says, oh, you have to win now, you have to fight back now, you have to respond. And sometimes that can be too much, and especially for George Russell, that we know is such a uber cool driver. I think the pressure will start to show at times this season. I think this weekend might be an example of that, where he might try and drive the car too much, might try and force a move, or just get frustrated. And I think the composure of Kimi Antonelli, because he has that belief and that confidence right now and that momentum, will be the difference in the two drivers. Maybe looking too far ahead, but I think this season, when we look back at it, it'll be about the driver that, until the damage limitation does the best work. I think it's a damage limitation weekend for George Russell. I think Lando will cause some problems, but I just think Kimi is just flowing right now, and that's so hard to stop when a driver's in flow state and the belief, and he's such a young driver, so much talent. The team's behind him, the storyline is behind him, and I just think it's going to be hard to overcome. So to finish second in a weekend like this, I think it'll still be massive. He'll drive well, but I just see right now Kimi getting on top of this car and driving it the best that it possibly can be driven. We come to the good next. And I've gone with Arvid Lindblad. He's had a rough few weeks. That RB car, though, does have a lot of good pace. It probably has more pace than the Red Bull. There's a chance for double points at some point, I feel like, in the first half of the season. It could be this weekend, because Liam Lawson has just driven the wheels off that car right now. And yes, that might be overshooting it, but I think this weekend Arvid Lindblad responds. These 5 weeks off would be important for some drivers and detrimental to others, but I think this 5 weeks was massive for Arvid Lindblad, just to press reset and to refocus and go again. We saw it in Australia. He has ability to race. He can go wheel to wheel, and for one reason or another, it hasn't gone his way. He gets stuck in traffic. The car's not quick enough for him. He hasn't qualified well. I think he qualifies well. He puts himself up there inside the top 13. And I think once you're in amongst those sort of packs there, he can race. He can get wheel to wheel. He can get past cars. He can show his quality. And I don't know how the RB is going to go around this circuit on the weekend, but I know the RB has got good pace. It's probably a top 5 car on the grid right now, which said a lot about the development of this RB unit. Yes, Liam Lawson has driven the wheels off it, and yes, he's probably overperformed it this season, but I think there's a real chance for double points. Liam Lawson will be around there. He can work with his teammate, and if he can get in the points this weekend alongside his teammate, that is absolutely good. And I feel like he will just respond this week. It's been a tough few weeks for him. He's a lot of learning to be done. He is a rookie, but I think this is one of those weeks where, like Kimi Antonelli did last season, will get on the podium, then disappear for 6 weeks and get back on the podium or produce another good race. I think this is Arvid Lindblad's response race. It might not be points, but I think he'll be good this weekend. I think he'll respond and put the car inside the top 11 or 12 this week. And for me, that would be the good for Arvid Lindblad. Coming to the ugly, and unfortunately, I'm going to go with Lewis Hamilton. I think the Ferrari car will not be quick around Miami. I think he'll struggle yet again. And I think it'll be, unfortunately, a similar picture that was painted last season, where he started the season off very, very well and then just fell away post-China. And I think he showed at times in Japan the quality, but we saw McLaren jump them. We saw him struggle once the teammate got past him. We saw him struggle to fight wheel to wheel with other cars. I just think it's going to be the bad because he'll be 6th. And that's not awful, but I just think the 5 ahead of him will just be far ahead of him. And I'm worried Lewis Hamilton needs to fight in this Ferrari car. They need to take it to the Mercedes. But it looks like, from what I saw in Japan and I guess the trend of last season, maybe Lewis Hamilton is just a Chinese GP king. He's good around the opening few circuits, but Miami hasn't really done well there yet. This car doesn't seem to be making enough jumps to compete with Mercedes, and McLaren, I think, are closing that gap week on week, and they've got the younger, more competitive drivers right now. I just think Lewis Hamilton falls away from that top 5 pack, and as such, that becomes the ugly from the weekend because you just cannot compete with that top leading group. So that, for me, unfortunately, is my ugly. I don't want Lewis Hamilton dropping away from the front 5, but I just have a bad feeling about this weekend, in particular with this Ferrari car around this circuit. Then my random prediction, it spat out 11th place again, I feel like, for the random prediction this weekend. And I've gone Isaac Hadjar for that prediction there. I think the Red Bull will be knocking on the door of the points. One will get in. I think Max Verstappen always will back him to get into the points. But I just see this car being an absolute handful to drive, and especially in traffic, it's going to be hell. I think Isaac Hadjar will do a very, very good job to get it up into 11th. I see him qualifying around P13, P14. But that car is just, it's rubbish, isn't it? It's really, really awful to drive. It seems to oversteer in some corners, understeer in others. The straight line speed of the car seems to be slower in Isaac Hadjar's car versus Max, what we've seen across the last, the first few races of the season. It hurts me to say this because I love Red Bull racing. I love the drivers in the team, but I just think right now this car is just rubbish. And to get the best out of it is to get a P11 for Isaac Hadjar. So that's my random prediction. He'll push, he'll knock on the door of points, but I just see this car taking at least the summer break in terms of becoming a car that can get up into the podium. It just looks so far off it right now. And as such, Isaac Hadjar is going to be the P11 random prediction for me. And then coming finally to the storyline of the race, I've been teeing this up throughout the whole video. I think we're going to get McLaren and Merc side by side at points during the sprint and during the race. Again, I'm going bold this week, but I think we're going to get McLaren's around the front. We're going to be racing the Mercedes. It might be for second, it might be for first, but I think in particular in the sprint, we're going to get them racy off the line. We're going to get them racy with the Mercedes, and we saw it at times. At Suzuka, they can hold off the Mercedes cars. They can change position with the Mercedes cars with using their boost in the overtake mode. And I think they stay within fighting distance, knocking on the door. Like what we saw from Ferrari around Shanghai, I think we see it here with the McLarens. They've got 2 drivers that want to be racy, that have really got nothing to compete for in terms of Drivers' Championship. They're driving freely, which they weren't last year, and that I think is going to be very, very dangerous. They're going to get onto the back of this Mercedes, cause them all sorts of problems. Obviously, those 2 are fighting for a Drivers' Championship, whilst these McLarens are just fighting to keep with the Mercedes. It's sort of like a lot to lose versus nothing to lose, and that's where it becomes dangerous because these McLarens will fight. They'll chuck the nose in, they'll chuck it down the inside, commit it around the outside. And look, they were both really, really good around Miami last year. I think they'll make it count yet again here. They might not win the race, they might not get in the front 2 positions, but they'll cause all sorts of problems in this race for the Mercedes drivers. And I see them being side by side through large portions of both the races, both sprint and the full GP itself. That's just my thoughts, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. It's great to have Formula 1 back this week, and we've got more racing with the sprint race as well. Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. I'll see you guys for the race review on Monday or Tuesday. I've got an event on Sunday, so I won't be able to do any qualifying or race live streams, but I'll be back for the race review on Monday. Interesting to see how these cars go because these 5-week breaks, what has changed amongst the teams, what are they adjusted, who's quicker, who's slower. It's going to be very, very exciting to see. With that being said, guys, hope you have a great day. Enjoy the weekend's GP action. I'll see you guys very soon.